All right, first tip we're going to do is on white balance. It's an interesting thing because the way cameras handle white balance, the way Lightroom handles white balance is very, very different. If you shoot in RAW, for example, take a look on screen. The image that we have here is a RAW image that we're in Lightroom's Develop module. If you go over here, right where it says WB, right, for white balance, there's a pop-up menu, right? And these are all the choices that you could have made in camera if you had shot in RAW. You would have the choice, of course, of auto white balance or daylight, cloudy. You could go with shade. Okay, you probably wouldn't go with shade, but tungsten, fluorescent, you know, any of the ones that you could have chosen in the camera. But the problem is, if you shoot in JPEG, so I'm going to move to the next image here, take a look. So this was a RAW image. Let me move over to the next image, which is a JPEG. And you can see it's a JPEG right there. It says JPEG, right? So the next image is a JPEG. So one of the major differences between how Lightroom handles RAW images and JPEG images is right here in white balance. When you go to this pop-up menu that used to have daylight and shade and cloudy and fluorescent, that's all gone. The reason is your camera embedded the white balance in there, where in RAW it's yet to be selected. So that's not a bad thing. You can still change it. You can still, of course, go to auto and just choose auto, which doesn't do a terribly bad job. Or you could move the slider so you absolutely still can adjust it, right? Or you can use the white balance eyedropper tool to click on something gray. So that all works too. But that's not what this tip is about. What this tip is about is being able to get those presets back for a JPEG image. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by going back to I'm going to hit my left arrow key on my keyboard and go back to the RAW image where we have all of those. What we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to make our own custom white balance presets. So for example, we'll go to daylight here, right? And it uses the daylight settings for a RAW image. We're going to go over here to the side panels. We're going to go over here to presets in the Develop module. And we've got user presets. So I'm going to create a new preset that is just based on the white balance. I'll also make sure the process version is in there too, so it uses the latest process. So white balance and then process version. What this checkbox makes sure is that you use the most current math. And of course you would want to use that. Now we're going to name this white balance, WB, daylight. Now you have a one-click white balance over here. That is the daylight settings. Now you're going to do it again. Go to cloudy, hit the plus button, just white balance, just that, and we'll go WB. There's no space, right? There we go. Cloudy. And I'll do one more. We're not going to do them all, but I'll do a drastic one here like fluorescent. Click the button, WB, fluorescent. Did I spell that right? Yes, I love it when I spell it right. All right, it's very rare. All right, so now, not only can you apply these to JPEG images, so let's go over to the JPEG image real quick here. Let's click to the next one, which is the JPEG. So not only can you apply these, but watch, you actually get a preview of what they're going to look like just by moving your cursor over. You're going to get the fluorescent look, the daylight look, or the cloudy look here, just by running them over. So you get something very, very similar without having those presets. So instead of going over here, set your white balance presets, now you'll go over here and set them there. Okay, so that's cool, but let's take things up a notch. We got our presets made. Another thing that you're going to want to know about doing white balance, choosing white balance, is sometimes it's a creative decision. Sometimes the reason to choose a particular white balance isn't because it's accurate, it's because it looks good to you. It's not about accuracy, it's about creativity. So I want to give you a little tip for that if I can. Let me zoom back down here in my collections, and I'm going to grab this image right here. So we have a landscape image. Now, what we're going to do is, I'm not sure which white balance I want to use for this. And I can move sliders and I can try different things, but I want to give you a more visual way to do it. Let's start off by creating a virtual copy. So a virtual copy is just another version of your exact same photo, that we can experiment with, and it doesn't really add any room. It's not like duplicating a file in Photoshop where you take a 65 megabyte file, you duplicate, you make another 65 megabyte file. Virtual copies, the word is virtual is because they're not real. It's not a real full copy as far as copying 60 meg over or something. So we can make as many of these as we want anytime from our original image. So here's our original image, and we're going to create virtual copies. I'm just going to press the shortcut Command apostrophe on Macintosh, or if you're on a Windows machine, it would be Control apostrophe. And watch, every time you do it, look, it makes a copy. We're going to make like 9 copies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, is that 9? Yeah. All right, now, it's actually 1 original and 8 copies. So the reason we're doing this is this. I'll start at the very beginning. Here's our as taken white balance. I'm going to move to the next image, and I'm going to try something different. So let's go and maybe make this one a little bluer and see how that looks. Okay, go to the next one. Let's make this one a lot bluer and see how it looks. Go to the next one. We'll make this one a little greener. Ah, I remember that green morning. It was so beautiful. And then we'll go to the next one and make it more magenta. Go to the next one, make it a lot magenta. Go to the next one, make it more yellow. Go to the next one, make it some yellow and some magenta. Go to the last one and make it some blue and some magenta for a purple morning. All right, so you have all these different colors. You don't know which one looks best to you. So we're going to select them all. We're going to press the letter N, and that puts you into survey mode. Now at this point, I just want to see the images and not all of Lightroom's interface. So I would press Shift-Tab. Shift-Tab. That hides everything and puts all my images center screen. So now I'm just going to look at these, and all I have to do is decide which one of these looks best. And I'm actually being able to see all these different versions. Now, what I do is I do the process of elimination. I actually, instead of trying to find the best one, which I think is kind of hard, I try to find the ones I absolutely don't like and then just remove them from screen. When I remove them, it doesn't delete them from Lightroom, it just removes them from the screen. This is just a visual tool. So survey mode. Let's see which ones I don't like. I definitely don't like this one in the bottom corner. It's a goner. I definitely don't like the one where I used green because you don't see many green mornings. So I just click the little X. Watch when I move my cursor over it, the X appears, get rid of that. Now let's see what else. This one looks probably a little too red. I'll get rid of that. All right, this blue one is probably a little too blue. And I can basically do the process elimination to get down to the one I like. I kind of like this one and this one and this one. I'm not too crazy about the original. That's sad, right? And then that's too yellow. So it would be one of these 3 ones, or I could keep all 3 if I like. Now, if I decide that I like, but you got rid of the original. But what if I decide I like this virtual copy? Well, that can become my real image. That's the cool thing about it. I can still export this as a JPEG or a TIFF or a PSD or take it over to Photoshop or whatever. That virtual copy acts like the real thing. So I actually even can make a JPEG from it. But let's just say that I press the letter P and that becomes, I flagged it as a pic and that becomes the one I want to use. Then I can get rid of the rest of them if I want. I can get rid of any ones. Now I had all 3 images selected, so it flagged this one, this one, this one, all 3 of those as my favorites. And if I wanted to make this particular one the winner, then I could maybe flag it with the number 6 and it puts a red label on it. So I know that, okay, the 3 best images were the ones with the flags, and the one that I actually want to use as a JPEG is this one, is the one that is flagged and is red. So there's just a couple of things to warm us up and some clever ways to use white balance and to get around some limitations of the way Lightroom handles white balance for JPEG images.